Did you hear about the Fed?
No, what about the Fed?
They announced another round of the quantitative easing.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to make large asset purchases via POMO.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to expand their balance sheet and buy treasuries.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to print a ton of money.
So why do they call it the quantitative easing? Why don't they just call it the printing money?
Because the printing money is the last refuge of failed economic empires and banana republics, and the Fed doesn't want to admit this is their only idea.
So why do they want to print the money?
Because they say we have the deflation, and the deflation is very bad.
What is the deflation?
The deflation is when prices of the things we buy go down.
Isn't that good? Doesn't it mean the people can buy more of the stuff?
Yes, but the Fed said this is bad, especially during the recession.
So they think that during the recession, when the people have less money to buy the stuff, it is bad that the prices go down?
Yes, the Fed would rather have the inflation.
So why does the Fed think we have the deflation?
Because the CPI said so.
But aren't the food prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the gas prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the healthcare costs higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't tuition prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the taxes higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the subway fares higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the stock prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
Aren't the bond prices higher than a year ago?
Yes.
So what is deflating right now?
The only thing deflating that I can see is the Fed's credibility.
Did they have a lot of credibility to start with?
No.
Why not?
Because the Fed has been wrong about every major economic development in the past 20 years.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is Eric Dudas, and I'm joined, as always, by the co-host of Fully Threaded. He's a man who appreciates a good, clean data upload almost as much as a good sheep farming joke. He's Brian Musker. Brian, how's the code slinging going over there today?
Well, pretty well, actually, but I've got this bit of a problem. This pink monkey followed me back from the Stelfast booth, and I've got to sit at a different desk at the moment.
Okay, but I hope he's not doing QA testing.
Some would say that could be a benefit, but no. I'm working with the accountants, actually.
All right, good, but don't be surprised if the sheep start getting jealous, okay?
Right, that'll do.
Welcome, everybody. This is episode 15, and it will be uploaded to the fullythreaded.com website on November 18th, 2010. On this edition of Fully Threaded, we've got a good, strong lineup for you. We're going to get things kicked off with the Fastener News Report, second installment, with Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International magazine. Then we'll talk with Stelfast owner and president, Simmi. She's got a windup of the NIFS show and also some good information about the newly forming Women in the Fasteners Industry group, as well as a very positive message for everyone in the industry. It's no wonder with messages like this that her company is really doing what it's doing.
Yeah, she has a pretty positive outlook on really the fact that if you think positive things happen.
Then we'll talk about the NIFS show with two of the industry's favorite bloggers from FastenerTalk.net, the Traveling Salesman, and also ScrewCrew.com's Andy Pels. We started off with the best of intentions and talking about the specifics of what happened at the show, and I think listeners will enjoy a little bit here and there where we went off the tracks a little bit.
Which is not that unusual for us, actually.
So it's a good, strong lineup, and thanks once again, everybody, for joining us. Well, the industry is in a decidedly better mood these days, according to what we saw at NIFS, and you'll hear about that on today's show. Tempering all of the euphoria, however, we're witnessing unprecedented maneuvers by the government as it tries to improve the economic situation. And opening the show today, we heard a snippet from a new cartoon video available on YouTube entitled Quantitative Easing Explained. And you can check out the full version of that online on youtube.com. We're the people who bring you fastenersclearinghouse.com. We're a search engine for industrial fasteners, and you can get on our website at www.fastenersclearinghouse.com. I hope your inside salespeople and purchasing folks are using our search engine whenever the need arises, when you're looking to do a spot buy, or, of course, when you're looking to unload some inventory. We can help you out. That's really our mission, and you're always welcome. You know, we say this on the show a lot. We continuously work to improve the quality of the database and add new features and fix an occasional bug here and there. And, you know, while we were at NIFS last week, we certainly talked with a lot of people, and I guess one of the common themes was inventory related, wasn't it, Bri?
Yes, you know, I really did. I talked to probably 20 or 30 people who were members, and I ended up really explaining the same thing. So it probably suits us to have a little bit of a better, more wide description right here. It relates to why you should reload your inventory more than just once a year. Now, the reality is that a lot of people find our inventory pages and your inventory as members through one of the search engines, Google or Bing or whatever, Yahoo. And they do it because they've typed something into the search line. They're looking for some sort of a screw or some type of DIN spec fastener or an ASME number. And in one of the pages, many pages we have, is indexed in Google for that reason. And up comes Fastener's Clearinghouse. Well, the reality is this, that Google loves fresh content. And in fact, all the search engines do. They love to see that something's changed. And that's why, as a part of search engine optimization, people add new pages to their website and change the text around and make it more relevant. Now, for Fastener's Clearinghouse, the reality is that search engines come and re-index various pages, especially the fastener pages, probably, I don't know, every 30 seconds at least, all day, every day.
Wow.
And every night, okay? So, as well as having all the people searching our site, we've got the fact that one of the search engines is hitting our site for an updated view of one of the pages at least every half minute.
One of the interesting things lately also has been watching some of the foreign spiders kicking around in our site. I see them from Europe and Asia all the time these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So, you know, if one of our members reloads their inventory, what really happens is that, say, one of the listings of cap screws or dowel pins or something like that, whatever they've happened to load, for one of the times when Google comes to it, it's actually got some different results in it. They could be higher up the list. There's something that's changed. They might have changed descriptions, and Google sees it as a positive change, and hence it raises the ranking of that page. So the members who have loaded up this inventory get a higher visibility right across the web.
The bottom line here, folks, is that if you're listing your inventory with FCH, which you should be, make sure that you keep those inventory listings relatively current, and you're welcome to update them anytime. You have 24/7 access to your inventory, so keep them fresh, keep stirring the pot. You know, there's another aspect of FCH that's been really on fire lately, and that's the whole Source Finder program. And for folks who aren't familiar with that, when you come to the site, do a search, and you can't find what you're looking for, it's a real-time RFQ program we call Source Finder. And, of course, if you're a member, then you'll be receiving those inquiries all the time, too. It's like a steady drip of fully qualified leads. And it's really, really been improving in terms of the volume and the quality of those source finders lately.
Yes, and I spoke to one of the members in Chicago here, and they had said exactly the same thing. They said, you know, these source finders, they're actually pretty good. As you know, you look at the source finders. I don't look at them that closely anymore. I just make sure they're working correctly. But
I saw one for 1 million screws come in last week.
Yeah, wow. Well, that'd be pretty good. If you're manufactured screws, it'd be pretty good.
Point is, folks, take advantage of the network. Hop on board. If you haven't been using it, you're always welcome, and there's something out there for darn near everyone if you're in the fastener business, distributing, importing, manufacturing.
Right, yep. That's why the show for us is sort of good. We get to see really a wide range of people. We get to see some of our members, which is I really enjoy doing. We get to see people who are skeptical about the web but think, this might actually work.
Well, there's more of that going on these days.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I guess it makes sense to take a moment right now to thank everybody who did come out to visit us at the show, and there were a lot of them. We really do appreciate that. We'll be talking a lot more about the show in our segments today. Actually, I think all three of our segments contain some coverage in one way, shape, or form. But really, we do appreciate that folks stopped by and paid us a visit and gave us feedback. Not too much negative this year.
No, only had one person actually who stopped by and said, well, I would never use a clearinghouse. Okay. It's all in a name, okay? Whatever. If it's only one, we're doing all right.
That's right. Well, we made a couple of good contacts this year, and we had a little bit of fun, had a new experience this year, of course. We got to the show on Tuesday morning, the opener, and realized that we were not quite ready to get launched. What was the problem there, Bri?
It was like the original disaster. It was really related to the fact of how we packed up our equipment the night before. I mean, we arrive and test everything, make sure it's working. And we do not rely on the network working within the exhibition hall. We really set up a complete self-contained little network so that no matter what happens, we can still keep displaying fasteners results.
Right, we've got a web server running under the table.
Yeah, right, and it actually is. So it's got the whole of FCH running on a very small laptop. However, the panic was that when we got to set it all up at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning, I could find neither the mouse nor the keyboard. Now, an ordinary fastener booth would manage perfectly well without a computer, but for us it's rather critical. In fact, it's central. And so we looked everywhere for where these things were, went back to the hotel, went back. It was a big mess.
Well, in the end, it turned out to be okay. The show opened at 9, and we were ready to go and ready to demonstrate on our giant 46-inch flat screen by, what was it, about 9:15?
Yeah, we were ready by 9:15, but it was probably 20 minutes or 30 minutes of pure panic while
Right.
we tried to locate everything and get it working. But yeah, screen was very, very cool this time and very good resolution. Beautiful screen.
That's right. The guys across the way from us, I think they got kind of a suntan from being exposed to it for 2 days.
Yeah, I think they were really sick and tired of looking at Fasteners Clearinghouse and probably concerned about the number of people that were always talking to us.
That was pretty good traffic. Of course, at the very beginning of the show, there's a big push, the big throngs going through. But as it slowed down, we did have a good steady stream of people who had come and they really wanted to talk to us. And, of course, we set up a lot of appointments ahead of time, and that's always a good thing to concentrate on.
Right, yeah.
We were in a little bit of a weird spot this year. We were right at the end of the Korean pavilion, and they had several booths on both sides of the aisle all lined up, and they had these kind of imposing booths. Actually, if you look at Global Fastener News right now, there's a picture of the Korean pavilion right on their front page. It's got all the umbrellas and that. And we were right next to that, kind of in the center of the aisle. And at first I was a little concerned, but it turned out to be okay.
We get pretty reasonable traffic no matter where we are, actually.
And the important thing is that we were there and we got to visit a lot of our friends. Speaking of which, the NFDA had a booth there this year, and I went over to see Mark Lennart, and they did a nice job with their new graphics and so forth. It looked pretty good. I haven't talked to them to see what kind of action they got, but I did hear very good things about their panel discussion on Monday afternoon. I guess it was sold out.
Huh. Okay. I was setting up the booth anyway, so.
Yes, no rest for the wicked.
Right. I came to I realized that a long time ago.
And speaking of wicked, there was a wicked rumor swirling around, and it was being fueled by the social media. And the news was that there was going to be a major acquisition that would be announced or leaked around the show. And it turned out not to be true. It made for some good drama, though, in the fastener industry. There was one acquisition that was announced, however, and it was between two of the software companies. Distribution One acquired IST, the Texas-based ERP vendor. So that'll affect several fully threaded listeners, I'm sure.
And FCH members, actually.
That's right. So we'll keep our eye on that and maybe during the next episode we can get a little bit of follow-up on that.
Okay.
So with that news, why don't we move ahead to Mike McNulty and the Fastener News Report.
Right.
Thanks, Eric. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, and I'm here to bring you the latest installment of the Fastener News Report. The 14th National Industrial Fastener Show West, held at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center in Las Vegas, was a success on several fronts. Show management reported increases in the number of exhibiting companies and registered attendees compared to 2009, which was a down year relative to the 2008 and 2007 shows. 2007 was the peak year for the 14-year-old Fastener Trade Show. The show attracted over 4,100 registrations, including exhibitor personnel and show visitors, which typically have a ratio of about 1-to-1. The biggest visitor category is the Fastener distributor. The largest show of its kind in North America, NIFS West, had a good and busy feel to it, and most attendees seemed more optimistic than they were 1 year ago. In addition to the exhibition, the show included a good array of business meetings and workshops, as well as several opportunities for networking. Two trends that we identified in the breakdown of exhibitors were more suppliers of fastener-making machinery and tooling, close to 100 companies of co-exhibitors are counted, and a continued internationalization of fastener exhibitors, especially coming from Asia. The latter point is a true reflection of the industry demographics, but is still a common point of discussion among many show attendees, especially among the domestic suppliers. Show management gave out 3 Best Booth Awards. Binder Metal Products of California was named the Best Single Booth. The Double Booth Award went to NBS Corporation, also from California. New Jersey's Rotor Clip took home the trophy for the Best Multiple Booth Exhibit, which featured a relaxation theme complete with a full-body massage machine. Some other attractive exhibits were by Acument, Matt Thread, Fishbowl Inventory, and the Korean Pavilion exhibitors. Staff attire that got my attention included the lab coats worn by Stork booth personnel and the Got Fasteners t-shirts sported by the Brighton Best staff members. As usual, exhibitor handouts were in abundance in Las Vegas, including pink monkeys from Stelfast and German beer and pretzels from Umeda. During the show, John Grabner, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cardinal Fastener and Specialty Company in Ohio, was interviewed by National Public Radio via telephone. In NPR's story on manufacturing growth in Ohio, Grabner talked about his company's recent job additions to support fastener demand from the wind turbine industry. Grabner also praised President Obama for pushing renewable energy. He cited the stimulus program for creating jobs in the wind industry and made a call for the federal government to support a renewable electricity standard, which would mandate utility companies to purchase a certain percentage of their electricity from renewable sources. In the social media arena, the Las Vegas show was the subject of a large quantity of Twitter posts this year, and the clear champion, in my estimation, was Vicki Lester of the Pacific West Fastener Association. Vicki posted many interesting comments and images during the show. Eric Dudas, your fully threaded radio host, delivered a lively presentation called Using Social Media to Build Your Business, right on the show floor, which was a new educational feature of the Las Vegas show, and it seemed like an idea worth repeating in future shows. Wrapping up our top story is news that next year the Las Vegas show will get a new location, new dates, and a new name. Scheduled for October 19 through 21st, 2011, the National Industrial Fastener and Mill Supply Expo will be held further down the Las Vegas Strip at the Sands Expo and Convention Center. Now on to Fastener Newsmaker highlights. Local reports in Michigan say that Doka Fasteners, headquartered in Norway, has obtained a $1.5 million tax credit over 7 years for its operation in Auburn Hills, Michigan. The company is investing $21 million in a manufacturing, coating, and distribution operation for making hot-formed bolts primarily for the wind turbine industry. 90 jobs are expected to be added. Carpenter Technology Corporation in Pennsylvania expects aerospace fastener demand to increase so much in the next decade that it has decided to expand its Dynamet titanium wire and bar facility in Clearwater, Florida. Dynamet, which is a subsidiary of Carpenter, makes titanium wire feedstock for the aerospace fastener industry. William Kent, Dynamet VP, said, the investment will include construction of a new building and installation of proprietary manufacturing facilities to produce close tolerance, high-performance wire for manufacturing titanium aerospace fasteners. The expansion project is expected to cost more than $5 million. Paul Nichols, owner of Precision Threaded Products, reports that his company has a new name and a new location. Formerly known as the Bland Company, the aerospace fastener maker is now occupying a new factory in Bristol, Connecticut that is almost 3 times as big as its old place in West Hartford, Connecticut. Reuters reports that Chinese exporters of screws and bolts are using Malaysia as an illegal transshipment hub to avoid EU import duties. Investigations are underway. If tariff circumvention is proved, then additional duties as high as 25% may be levied in on fasteners going to Europe from Malaysia. Branch manager Ed Harper informs us that Intercorp, an importer of construction fasteners under the Strong Point brand, has opened a new distribution warehouse in Houston, Texas. This new location complements other existing facilities in Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, and Portland. Last month, Holochrome, a West Hartford, Connecticut-based fastener manufacturer, opened the doors of its new facility in Wallingford, Connecticut, bringing about 100 new jobs. Also last month, TriMas Corporation of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, announced that it was acquiring the stock of South Texas Bolt and Fitting Incorporated, also known as STBF, for $18 million in cash. STBF is a manufacturer and distributor of customized stud bolts, industrial fasteners, and specialty products for the oil field and industrial markets. Located in Houston, STBF generated $14.5 million in sales for the 12 months ending June 30th, 2010. BE Aerospace out of Wellington, Florida, has signed an agreement with Satar AS in Denmark to acquire Satar's aerospace fastener distribution business for $162 million. This was fulfillment of Satar's strategic plan to exit the fastener market. Acme Industrial Company, Carpentersville, Illinois, a subsidiary of Juergens Incorporated in Cleveland, Ohio, has been approved by the United States Defense Logistics Agency as a supplier of Class III threaded fasteners. Fastening system supplier Disc Lock in Culver City, California, has formed a marketing distributorship and affiliation with Copper State Bolt and Nut Company out of Phoenix, Arizona. Products to be offered will include the company's safety wheel nut. And our last newsmaker highlight is that Semblex Corporation in Elmhurst, Illinois, has received the North American license for the family of Remink trilobular fasteners, including Tap-Tite, Duo Tap-Tite, Tap-Tite 2, Tap-Tite 2000, Plastite Power Lock, and Fast-Tite fasteners. Our resume builder news this week comes from Interfast Incorporated, an aircraft and specialty fastener distributor who has promoted Peter Olick to president. Peter will work with CEO Douglas Wollings in managing the company. Additionally, Interfast has hired Jason Gray as sales director for Interfast Europe. Fastener events on the horizon. The Pacific West Fastener Association is holding its annual holiday party and Toys for Tot collection on Thursday, December 2nd at the Holiday Inn Select in La Miranda, California. Details are available at www.pac-west.com. Mack Brooks Exhibitions in the UK, the organizer of Fastener Fair Stuttgart, has announced a new industry event for the Indian market called Fastener Fair India Mumbai 2011. It takes place at the Bombay Exhibition Center in India from April 16th to 17th, 2011. Mack Brooks is hoping to capitalize on India's continued economic growth and increasing domestic demand for infrastructure improvements to satisfy the growing Indian population. The 2011 Fastener Expo Shanghai and the second Shanghai Auto Fastener Exhibition are scheduled to take place June 16th through 18th, 2011 in Shanghai, China. The exhibits will include all types of fasteners as well as fastener making equipment and fastener materials such as wire and strip. On to the back page. Richard Malson, founder of Ramco Specialties, a Hudson, Ohio-based fastener maker, and his wife Barbara have made a $2.1 million donation to Hudson City Schools in honor of their late son, Scott Malson, who played football at the high school and also coached in the Hudson Youth Football League. The money will go towards a new athletic facility, which will include a new football stadium and renovations to existing facilities. Richard Malson said, "It's a memorial for my son to keep his memory alive." Scott Malson was 40 years old when he died 5 years ago after a long bout with cancer. The Wall Street Journal recently announced Bolt-A-Block as a runner-up in its 2010 Technology Innovation Awards in the Material and Base Technologies category. Bolt-A-Block provides a fastener-based building system for disaster relief as well as residential and commercial structures. Early last summer, Kirk Zedner, president and CEO of Ernest Machine, made a commitment to support the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society by raising money to help fund a future cure. On Saturday, November 20th, Kirk will bicycle over 100 miles to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Kirk says that people are living longer and living better through advancements in research and treatment, and that a little financial support goes a long way. If you want to help Kirk accomplish his goal, you can make a donation by contacting him at kpz@earnestmachine.com. And our final story today. The number of federal workers earning $150,000 or more a year has soared tenfold in the past 5 years and doubled since President Obama took office, a recent USA Today analysis finds. The raw numbers are startling. In 2005, about 7,500 government workers earned more than $150,000 per year, and this year the number is just over 82,000 people. Less than 1,400 federal employees made over $170,000 in 2005. But in 2010, that number tops 27,000 workers. The same publication reported in August that federal civil servants in the USA earned average pay and benefits of $123,000 in 2009, while private workers made $61,000 in total compensation. Since federal spending, performance, and compensation are not tempered by the basic rules of competition or natural market forces, this information gives strong support for limiting the size and power of our governments. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please submit your news, comments, and corrections to McNulty@fastenertech.com and learn more about the fastener industry by visiting www.fastenertech.com.
We'll be talking to Simmi next on Fully Threaded Radio.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, all just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pels from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
This is John Butler with K&L Sales, your source for fastening technologies. And you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
One of the big five players in the fastener industry these days is Stelfast. And joining us now is the owner and president of Stelfast from Toronto, Canada, Simmi. Welcome, Simmi.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
It's our pleasure.
We're glad to have you with us, that's for sure. Say, most people in the industry know you. As we were talking before we started recording, you're one of the people out there with a name that's so recognizable. You're almost like the Cher, the Charo of the fastener industry, aren't you?
I would like to hope that plays to our benefit.
I'm sure it does. I wonder if you could nevertheless give our listeners a little bit of a bio of yourself, a little background on Stelfast, and maybe we could take it from there.
Well, sure, I'd be happy to. I joined Stelfast 13 years ago. I'm a daughter in the industry. My father started the company in 1974. When I joined Stelfast, we had 3 locations, 1 in the U.S. and 2 in Canada. And since I've joined, we've worked very hard at growing the company, both in locations and product lines. We now have 6 locations in the U.S., 3 locations in Canada, and we also have offices in Taiwan and in China. And we're quite enjoying our growth pattern, and it's something we plan on continuing in the years to come. We are an importer into this industry. We import a variety of steel fasteners for all types of industries, automotive, construction, a whole variety. And we are a full-line carrier of fasteners.
Now, you're headquartered out of Cleveland, that's correct?
Yes. In essence, we have 2 headquarters because we have a Canadian division and we have a U.S. division. So our headquarters in the U.S. is in Strongsville, Ohio, which is Cleveland, and our headquarters in Canada is in Toronto.
Got it. Of course, like so many others in the industry, recently we were all in Vegas. What were your impressions of the show this year?
I think that it was a good show. I'm not aware with regards to the count of the number of exhibitors and the number of people who attended to know whether it was up or down. But I am a big fan of trade shows and of associations, and I think it's a great forum for team members of the company to get together and for us as a company to get out there and get to meet our customers and thank them for their support and learn about what's going on in the industry. I think the national show does a good job in presenting that forum, but I also really enjoy the local forums, the local associations, the regional ones, where you have more team members who can make it out from the companies to come and visit the shows, where you can combine it with sales calls and get out there and see your customers and see what their buildings are like and meet their people in their offices. So I think the regional shows also do a great job with that as well.
Now, which regional shows do you go to then?
Pretty much everyone that we can fit into our calendar, because I think it's really important to get out there and see the customers and listen to what's going on in the industry. You know, there's really a limited amount that you can do behind your desk, and visiting customers is a fantastic thing, but getting to see them in a show where there are groups of them and we can have ongoing conversations is very helpful as well. You know, next year in 2011, the Southeastern Fastener Association has a meeting going on in March, which we will be attending. The Pac West Association has a conference in March as well. The Midwest Fastener Association has done a great job in improving their show every year, and I'm expecting their show in June to be one of their best. And then come fall time, I think it's the New England Fastener Association that usually has either a tabletop or a meeting. So all of those type of ones we try to get out to get to see the customers in their regions. As much as fasteners are uniform pretty much across the country as to the specs and what gets used, I find that the industries that each region supports are so different that you really need to get to the regional level to understand what's going on in that region and be able to support the distributors in that region.
All right, yeah, and we've also found that the different regions, even across the US, are quite different in terms of the business outlook at the moment. Some are really booming and others are still in the doldrums.
Most definitely.
You know, I should probably know the answer to this, but I don't. Are there any Canadian associations dealing with fasteners, strictly fastener distribution?
You know, I'm disappointed to say no, not that I'm aware of, and it's something I've really looked into since I made the move from Cleveland back to Toronto. They really don't have trade shows up here as much. They don't have associations as much. They have some buying groups, which aren't really the same thing as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that does lack in the Canadian market, is that there isn't a forum for the associations to come out there and for all of us to talk as a group about what's going on and educate each other. Because of that, you'll find a lot of Canadians at the American shows and participating in the American organizations.
Okay. I mean, that's a sort of an interesting difference, isn't it, between the Canadian fastener industry and the American one? Is there any other one that stands out to you?
I find that the approaches in the countries do differ quite a bit. Canada being such a large country with population spread out as much as it is, I think because of that it makes it a little bit more difficult for the industry to always unite with regards to what's going on. Also, I would have to say that our exposure up here is also a little different because of the fact that in our Canadian operations, we do a little bit more of the specialties than we do in the U.S. We have a machine shop up here. We do a lot of special runs, short runs, those type of things. So we don't get exposed to as much of the generic commercial that we would get exposed to in the U.S. So probably the industries that we deal with up here are different as well.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So then you do more than just import then if you have machine shops?
Yes. In Canada, we do a lot of secondary processing and manufacturing as well, but those products generally stay within Canada. We've had enough of a demand in the Canadian market here that we really haven't marketed those down into the U.S. yet. Okay.
Well, let's talk for a moment again about NIFS. Everyone seems to have an opinion about the influx of foreign suppliers, and what's your spin on that?
I think that the economy has changed. I think that the world that we do business in has changed dramatically. The ability to find suppliers overseas and have knowledge of what goes on overseas, courtesy of the internet and emails and things like that, opens up a lot of different suppliers that probably didn't exist for some companies 10 years ago.
Right.
Obviously, the next step in that is the fact that you're going to see overseas suppliers present themselves in our associations at our trade shows. I believe that every supplier provides a different service and a different product. There is a benefit to buying from an importer versus buying from a supplier on certain product lines, as well as the fact that there's a very large learning curve in educating yourself on how to purchase from overseas. It's one thing to find a supplier and cut a purchase order. It's another thing to get the parts when you want them, the way you wanted them, the proper quality, good payment terms, relationships to deal with if there's freight issues, all of those type of things that go into the mix. So because of that, I don't find it to be a threat to our business model the way it's presented to distributors. I still think that Stelfast presents a service level as well as an expertise and a knowledge that makes it a benefit to buy from Stelfast versus buying from overseas direct.
Interesting. Okay.
So I think because of that, my approach has never really been that the suppliers shouldn't be there. I try to educate our customers so that they don't learn from mistakes, because it's very easy to make a mistake when you're buying from a supplier you don't know of overseas. But aside from that, I'm not one to advocate that they shouldn't be there. I'm one to advocate why there's a benefit in dealing with Stelfast for certain product lines and certain types of purchases that you make. There's a reason why we have offices in Taiwan and China.
Yeah,
it's necessary to have a presence there. We have the ability to audit the suppliers, visit the suppliers, spot check parts before they load without notice given to the suppliers. So what we can do in maintaining the quality level of what's coming into the United States and Canada is something that obviously most distributors don't have the ability to do because they don't have a presence there.
Right, and we were talking earlier about competition and how it tends to stimulate innovation and improve service and so forth. And don't you think that this is one of the forces that's driving the adoption of technology in the industry now? It really seems to be catching on.
I think it's great to see how technology is being used in the industry. And I think the competition always forces us to do what we're doing a little bit better and to take a look at how we're doing things and find a way for that continuous improvement. I'm very proud of our team in the sense that I don't think we've waited for this influx of Asian suppliers at trade shows and things like that for us to always sit down and look at how we can continually improve. That's something that's sort of been our motto and our way of doing business for a long time now. Every year at the end of the year, regardless of whether it's a good year or a fantastic year, the question we always sit down as a team to answer is how do we do even better? How do we improve our service to our customers to help make them more competitive in the industry? So I do think competition can drive that, but I also think that it's very important that a company drives that as its internal corporate culture as well.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And the adoption of technology, in my view, comes from top down. I mean, we see clearly in many companies that if the management is technophobic, it ends up leading to a whole company that is the same way, and they can't really benefit from any of these advances.
Well, I think that technology has benefits and disadvantages to it. You know, we can all talk about the fact about how much we love our BlackBerries and our laptops and emails and things like that. And all it takes is for one server to go down for, I know, everybody in my company to run around talking about the days of Cardex and how we should go back to it.
Right.
So there are definitely pros and cons to technology. I like the influx of technology into our industry. I think it's something that was definitely needed. But I think that's something that we're working as a company very hard to maintain is balancing technology with customer service. We're a company that's built ourselves on our relationships, on our reputation, and technology can't take the place of that for us. So I think it's very important that technology gets balanced with the fact that customers still want to feel valued and that you still have to treat your customers well. You can't just direct them to technology when they need somebody to talk to or they have a question about a part. You need to be available for them and you need to provide that service. It's crucial, I think.
Yes, I was going to make a comment about the fact that at the PacWest conference, they dealt with really the handling customer requests for information. They had a great discussion about that, and they presented the fact that the companies themselves have to have quality control procedures to make sure that they're giving really the right information to customers.
Correct.
Past the technology part of it, but it was making sure that, since it's a really important part of the reason that people deal with distributors, it's got to be good info.
And that's something that's very important. We are very fortunate to have well-experienced team members on our sales teams. They've been in the industry for several years. They know their products. They know what they're doing. We're also an ISO and a TS 16949 certified company. So we have a lot of procedures and checks in place. We have a lot of education that's given to our team members with regards to what we're selling. We don't design engineer. We don't answer engineering questions because obviously that's not what our expertise is. But we know what we're selling, and we know the specifications, and we understand the product that we're selling so that we can have an intelligent conversation with our distributors with regards to what we're selling and how it works.
Now, just a question I have that since you started in Canada originally, is your emphasis on metric, or is it you evenly spread between metric and the U.S. Imperial fasteners?
Our emphasis is U.S. Imperial. I think you'd be surprised by how much U.S. Imperial is used up in Canada. When we get into more automotive parts and some of the special parts that we deal in, that's where we see more of the metric influence.
Mm-hmm.
But from a stock standpoint, it's primarily the Imperial.
Okay.
Changing the subject a little bit, we were joking earlier that one of Brian's new best friends happens to be a pink monkey.
Thank you, Eric.
Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of that? Of course, the pink monkeys that I'm talking about were the wonderful little stuffed toys that Stelfast was distributing at the Vegas show.
Yes, every year, I want to say for probably about the past 5 years now, we have given out stuffed monkeys to customers, competitors, suppliers, whomever stops by the booth, and then the customers that we get to visit throughout the year as well. And every year what we've done is we've changed the color of the monkey. This year when we decided we were going to change the color of the monkey, our team sat down and said, if we were going to change the color, why don't we change it to a color that we could tie to a cause that we all supported and believed in? So this year we decided to make the monkey a pink monkey. And on the T-shirt, we wrote on the T-shirt the fact that we support the cure. The goal was to help raise awareness of breast cancer and the need for the cure of breast cancer. And that's why you got to see a lot of pink at the Stelfast booth, both in the monkeys and in the shirts that our team members were wearing. And I have to say, as an industry, we should be exceptionally proud of the response that we received. I can't tell you the number of people, regardless of customers or not, who came up to us and asked us, why we were doing this and which funds we were supporting so that they could support it as well. People really took interest in it, but took interest in it to actually go out and do something, which was just wonderful. We couldn't have asked for anything more than that.
That's fantastic news.
Yeah, it was a really nice touch for us to be able to bring that to the show and to raise that conversation in the show.
And we support integrating charities and causes that you believe in with your business. I think that's definitely the way to go. If you can't do that sort of thing with your business, I don't know, kind of takes away from the whole point of being in business for yourself,
And that's, I think, what our team sort of brought to us was we have this great audience there where, yes, we're there to talk about the fact that we're growing and we're adding product lines and what we do to service our customers, but we also have an audience there that we could share something else with that's so important to so many of us. And I commend our team members on coming up with the concepts and on putting that forward.
Is there a way that listeners can help you to pitch in to support the foundation, Simmi?
Susan G. Komen is the foundation that we've chosen to support and to donate towards. When we made that decision, one of the things that I also decided as a company was that we wanted to raise awareness for people to know that this is a very good charity, a very good cause, but we weren't tying it with an obligation to our customers, our suppliers, or anybody at the show. It was basically raising awareness, and then it was everybody's decision as to what they wanted to do with that, whether it be have a conversation with someone or whether it be to donate themselves. That was going to be completely up to them. And I think when I talked about us being very proud of ourselves as an industry, we never went out there and asked anyone else to donate. And the number of people who stepped up to volunteer to donate was just, for me, mind-boggling. It was amazing. We didn't have a sign-up recommending people donate. We didn't even tell people that we were donating as a company. But people would just come up and ask us, and it was really nice to see. It's something that I'm encouraging people to do. I'm encouraging people to know that it's definitely a cure that we need to work towards. How people choose to support that is completely up to themselves.
Well, it makes sense, I guess, to segue into our next topic, which is the Women in the Fastener Industry group that you're assisting to spearhead. You had a meeting out at the NIFS show, and that was very, very well attended also. That was kind of exceeded expectations itself, didn't it?
Well, and I don't know if I would take the credit of assisting to spearhead, but it's definitely something that I'm supporting. Pam Berry from Advanced Components started this concept of a women's group in the Fastener Association and called it Wi-Fi. And Lou Aderman joined her with that and sort of got the information out there and started to organize these discussions and these group meetings. And the first one was in Columbus, Ohio at the trade show there, and it was exceptionally small. I think there was probably 5 or 6 of us. And from that, they put together a panel to discuss women in the industry at the show at Las Vegas. I think we probably had 70 people attend,
Wow.
which was fantastic.
Yeah.
We had 4 people on the panel. Nikki Long, who is National Account Manager for OMG Roofing Products, Mary Chambers from Assembly Products and Sales, and Joanne Bialis, who's from International Fasteners. And she is actually also the president of the Southeastern Fastener Association. And then there was myself as well. And we all brought a different perspective. It was a time for us to sort of, as the panel, share our experience in the industries, what our hopes were in the industries, and why we are interested in participating in this women's association. Then after that, everybody joined in and asked questions, and we all sort of networked and talked about our experiences. I was sharing with Eric before this call, that took place Monday evening. After that was the Fastener Bash, and then we had a day and a half of the show. I was so happy to see, as you walked around at the bash and at the show, the number of women who stopped to greet each other because they had met briefly the night before. That feeling of camaraderie and that feeling of, joining this little group seemed to really carry through the show, and we made a point of stopping and talking to each other and learning about each other's business and what we were doing in the industry and how things were going, and ask each other questions about experiences that we had had. It was really a wonderful thing. Lou Aderman and Pam Berry just did a fantastic job in putting this together. I felt very privileged to be asked to be on that panel, because especially sitting on that panel with someone like Mary Chambers, who's been doing this, I won't say for how many years because I don't know if she wants me to disclose that,
Okay.
was amazing. Listening to her stories and her experiences and the amount that she has accomplished was just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So I felt very privileged to be on a panel with her.
Well, that's what it's all about. And it seems like you're off to a really good start. And I noticed that you have a group out on LinkedIn, also named Wi-Fi, and there's also a Twitter account set up for the organization.
Yes. Yes. They are a group that's staying up with technology.
Now, I just have to ask you, did you notice any kind of an irony there, as I did, with the group name of Wi-Fi? It's kind of this all-encompassing, ubiquitous, invisible force that's around us, kind of controlling our lives. Is there any parallel there, do you think?
Well, and I don't think the name was picked with the intention of the fact that there would be that type of a parallel, but we have talked about it since then in the fact that we find that Wi-Fi is very appropriate in the fact that it's this communication, this instantaneous communication, this network that exists, this energy that exists, and it just seems very well suited for the group that's now become known as Wi-Fi,
right,
which I'm hoping will be growing every day.
Right. Well, it's got a little bit of a different flavor to it than what I was thinking, but I'll accept that. That's a good one, Simmi.
Okay.
Well, this has been a pretty meandering conversation, but we've learned a lot. I'll ask you one last question, I guess. Is there any breaking news with Stelfast you want to drop on us? Any premieres you can share?
Well, obviously throughout this, when I talk about Stelfast, I always talk about the fact that we're growing. With the new line cards that we put out at the trade show, the one thing everybody probably noticed was there was a variety of new product lines. Probably too many for me to sit here and list through on this conversation. But, we've added threaded bar, we've added anchors. We're committed to listening to our distributors and understanding what is they want to see on the floors in our warehouses to help them service their customers, and that's what we're doing. Hopefully, I'll be back on this podcast in a couple months telling you about new locations that we're opening, because that's something that we're looking at as well. We are committed to the fact that we are going to grow. We've seen the economy go up, we've seen the economy go down, and we've made the decision as a company that, yes, obviously you need to know what's going on in the economy, but we're going to sort of chart our own course here. If the economy recovers to the levels that it used to be, fantastic. But regardless of where this economy goes, Stelfast is going to grow. And we're going to find ways to keep our distributors more competitive so that they can gain more business as well. And that's what we've committed to for 2011. And I think we're going to have a great year doing that.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's positive. Good.
Well, and I guess the one thing I want to end with, Eric, and I think it's something that I hope you hear people talk about more and more, is the fact that it's a positive message we're getting out there, because I think it's important that the industry stays positive on the days and the months and the years to come. I think there is a lot of potential out there for so many companies, and we see customers every day who are creating their potential and creating their growth. And I think the more and more that you see people take ownership of that, the quicker you'll see things turn in this economy, and the quicker you'll see all of us grow in what we're doing in business. So I'm hoping that the message always stays positive out there, because that's what drives us to do better the next day, the feeling that we did well today.
And the view that there is a positive future, okay?
Yep, I would definitely agree.
Well, that's the view of Fully Threaded and FCH too.
That's right, and it's a positive one, and I really appreciate you bringing that to light and sharing it with us.
No problem.
Simmi, you are a heavyweight of this industry, and you know it, and you know your company well, and we are privileged to have had you on with us, and we do hope you'll come back and join us again.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. I think I'm only as successful as I am in this industry because I have a phenomenal team behind me in doing this, so the credit definitely goes to them. But I look forward to being on some more podcasts and discussing some more issues.
We look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
Traveling Salesman and Andy Pels coming up.
This is Sue Rice with the FCH team. It's my job to make sure that as an FCH member, you receive the highest possible benefit from your participation in the network. Did you know that once you're logged into FCH, you have access to exclusive search tools, site statistics, and tracking information about your inventory and source finder inquiries? It's all just a click away, and I'm happy to walk you through it. If it's time to refresh your inventory, don't worry. We'll run your listings through our scrubber software and get you up and running in a very short time. If you can attach a spreadsheet to an email, you can list inventory on FCH. We can also show you how to optimize your listings to attract the most hits for your type of fastener. Send email to sue@fastenersclearinghouse.com and let me help you get the most from the FCH sourcing network. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Hi, this is Tony with JFD Industries, your source for chain, cable, wire rope, and rigging hardware. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
One of the biggest events in the fastener industry year just took place in Las Vegas. It was NIFS West. And with us now to recap the show and give us their impressions are two of the industry's favorite bloggers. And that would be Traveling Salesman from FastenerTalk.net and also ScrewCrew.com's Andy Pels. Welcome, gentlemen.
Glad to be on board.
It's good to be here.
Hey, I've got to point out this is going to be a first in Fully Threaded history that we've tried to actually get four people into a conversation. We'll see what we can do. I'm sure that it'll be a little bit challenging, but I think it'll be well worth the try. We sure had a lot of fun out in Vegas. We made a lot of good contacts. The show was a pretty positive one from all accounts. And earlier in the show, of course, we heard from Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology, and he gave us some of the impressions kind of from a newsmaker's side or a news reporter's perspective. But now let's get really into the thick of it, guys. Andy, why don't you get started? Let us know, what were your impressions?
Well, I as you know, I fool around on my blog, but I do work for a distributor, so I was kind of coming at it strictly from that perspective. And compared to shows I've been to in the past, it seemed like mostly the same people there, but a much different attitude, a much different theme really going on, especially with some of the master distributors talking about online ordering. You know, I've talked about this before. It's still not progressed to where I think it should be, but it's really come a long way for the fastener industry especially. And so I got to talk to some people about that, about making it easier to do business online and, you know, using the tools that are out there that our industry is finally catching up with.
Right. T.S.?
Interesting, Andy points that out because I come from the perspective or from the side of trying to sell people like Andy. And, you know, it's nice Andy and I got to meet each other kind of from a social basis, but I come to the show trying to connect with my customers and with the products I sell. And I think Andy makes a good point. There were quite a few discussions about online purchasing. I don't think it dominated it. I think they're still working it out. I think some people still don't totally embrace it, although certainly a lot of people do. There were just some discussions about, you know, how do you balance keeping the personal part of selling and the relationships intact as you go to that. So that's a subject probably for a whole other show. Overall, though, the mood of the show was much different than 2009. I think in 2009 people were more, you know, boy, we've just been through a terrible year. You know, we're still surviving, and boy, let's hope next year brings something different. And I think this year the discussions were more about planning. Next year we're adding these product lines. You know, how are we going to get out in the field more in front of our customers and all those more positive things that they were thinking about and talking about. And that felt a lot different from the year before.
Yeah, right. It was positive for Brian and myself as well. I think people dislike us a lot less this year, and that was an uplifting for us.
Yeah, I talked to some one guy came to see me, and I asked him. I said, "So normally you come to see me, you hold up a big cross in front of yourself." I said, "Where's the cross today?" He said, "No, I sort of got used to you."
The hell of an accomplishment, boys.
Actually, to me, the tenor was sort of really quite a lot different because, you know, we see a different part of it still. And what we see is the people's frustration with actually having to deal with technology at all, okay? Because we represent that in a way to them. And so there's usually people are going by just thinking of how they could stick a nice bomb there to blow the whole thing up and get rid of us. But in truth, this year, that was not like that. People were really sort of interested, and even though they might have walked past the last 5 years, they sort of would stop and talk to us this year.
You know what was interesting is I see what you're saying too, that the attitude is changing. I've always kind of been on board with most of the technology stuff for whatever reason, but some people aren't and have fought it before. And like you said, almost made it sound like, well, if we can get these guys to go away, I won't have to think about it anymore. but now they realize, okay, this isn't going anywhere, so maybe they can help me come on board. There were some people we were talking with after Eric's social media presentation who I was surprised, you know, perfectly intelligent people who had no clue whatsoever about what to do about any of this stuff online and had been fighting it But seem now to have the attitude of, okay, I don't feel like anybody's pushing me to do it anymore. I see the benefits in it, and now I'm sort of ready for you guys to help me put my toe in the water. So that was a good thing.
Yeah. I think the other thing is that for us, this show is always a pretty good show because there's a lot of people who are the owners of the companies turn up, okay? And that's not normally the people we talk to. We talk to people a little bit deeper down the organization, and they don't really reflect what their owners might be thinking usually, okay? And usually if the owners of the company, is a technophobe, then the people further down realize that they don't have to worry about it either.
Yeah. Hitting out what Andy was talking about a little bit, too, I did go to Eric's presentation. I had a mask on, of course.
Yeah, I know. It was a good mask, too, okay?
Scary.
No, but
I mean, there was only one guy dressed up like Zorro in the whole place.
Come on, if I was wearing a mask, that wouldn't have been
it.
it.
Was him.
But Eric touched on it in his presentation, is how do you take social media and make it business to business? We all, or a lot of us, get that Facebook is interesting and some of these other sites are interesting, and Twittering is very interesting. I don't know if any of us quite know yet where it's going. And it was used quite a bit at the show. Andy was kind enough to set up a hashtag, and you can go to his screwcrew.com. He explains very well what a hashtag is, because I had no idea. But there was a lot of Twittering going on there, and I know people think it's kind of a nonsense feature or something that they just can't figure out what good it is, and I'm still there to some degree. But I'll tell you on a practical level, there were people Twittering who I then contacted and said, I would like to come by your booth and meet you. And I did that with several people. That some of them, it was just nice to meet them. I have a new fastener friend, and there's nothing wrong with that. But some of them are contacts that down the road could be valuable because, again, we got to figure out where the business-to-business link is here. Andy's a distributor. I sell to distributors. We've never done any business together. We're geographically far apart. But in the back of my mind, I also, as much as I like him personally and have gotten to know him a little bit, there may be times where our paths cross and we do business together. And, that's part of just meeting new people, be it through any of these Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, or any of those. So I think there's some things we're still muddling through, but I see some potential there.
Well, it's a good point, and I think this is definitely the first NIFS that has been truly supported with social media. And the people who were not dialed into it would be amazed at what was happening, the background of chatter that was going on. I'm not saying that it was really any significant content like you, TS. There were a few connects that were being made, but I think that's only going to grow as more people get on board with it. And there was probably, you guys know, like a dozen people that were really hanging out on Twitter?
Yeah, it seemed like it.
That seems about right.
Yeah, and that was more than I had expected would. This time around, and then it'll definitely grow next year. And like you're saying, nobody knows exactly how to monetize this for the fastener industry yet, but it's kind of fun to do in the meantime. We're making network connections, and eventually it will lead to some sort of business advantage. But in the meantime, why not give it a try?
Well, another part of the connection is that when we were just on the last day, a guy came by and pointed out that he'd been down to the tattoo parlor based on reading the posts on your blog.
I actually got one of those temporary tattoos made with a screw on it, and I forgot to show it to you guys on Wednesday.
That would have been great.
I think that's something that should appear on screwcrew.com. I think that's a good place to put it on there.
I'm kind of a hairy guy, so I had a hard time finding a place to put it on my arm even. I'm not sure if I want to take a picture for the whole world to see, but...
Okay.
Next year you'll have to hire models then to show your tattoos, because that's too popular at a few booths.
There we go.
Okay.
Somehow we always seem to manage to get off the tracks. I didn't expect it to happen this early in the discussion, though, you guys.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'll tell you another discussion in addition to one Andy brought up about online purchasing. There's a lot of discussion about all the importers, and it's interesting, just an observation coming into the show was the holes in inventory that just about every one of them has, and that doesn't make them a bad supplier by any means, but a lot of the major importers still continue to have some holes in their inventory at the same time that they're adding new product lines, and there are several of them adding new product lines. So it's interesting. I think there's holes in the inventory because people aren't sure if this economic upturn is going to be sustained, or maybe it's just so much bigger than they thought. But that hasn't stopped them from adding new product lines. And there's a friend of mine, I don't do business, I don't work with him, but I confronted him on that, and I said, you're adding these lines, but I understand you have holes in your inventory. How does that work? And he just shrugged and said, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly. And I think from a distributor perspective, we kind of understand, like I kept asking people at the show, I went to our first 5 normal sources for a 632x1 stainless socket head recently. Nobody had any, period. And they were 10 to 12 weeks out kind of thing. So, it's weird that stuff's coming up, but we do understand everybody reduced their inventories. We all got caught, with our inventories down on certain items. But that goes back to the whole change in attitude in this year's show. Last year it was a little down. Oh, my gosh, what's going to happen? This year it did seem like, we've all made it this far together. Let's just kind of stick it out. And it's good, though, that everybody's not just hunkering down and not trying to add new things and not trying to diversify a little, because we need to have that keep happening, even if there are some holes on one side and you're adding to another side. At least we're still trying to go somewhere forward.
Oh, that's true.
Take a leap of faith here, and let's say that next year there's hundreds of people who Twitter or talk, at a common blog or at least are communicating. Somebody's going to make a lot of money when they find out that no one has that 632 stainless part that Andy was just talking about. Because these are distributors just going from company to company trying to find this stuff. And it just seems like that's some of the stuff as communication gets increased in a very short period of time, like instantaneous information. Somebody could make a killing if they can get their hands on those. And who knows where it's all going, really.
Well, let's get back to that idea of diversifying the product line. Of course, one of the big announcements was Head's big announcement pertaining to the socket business. Andy, was that kind of one of the things that led to your observation?
Yeah, I hadn't heard it as a big announcement, but when I was talking to them, I saw their flyer there. That, since you're asking for my perspective, wasn't as huge of a deal as they might have thought it was. It depends on where they take it, because really, from my perspective, they've got to, if they want to make something out of it for me, they've got to compete against Bright and Best, really, for that kind of socket business. It'll depend on, how their package quantities are and that kind of thing. But, of course, it's good. The more these guys, the bigger guys who have a wide product line, the more they diversify to a reasonable extent, the more we can consolidate our orders. Of course, we always want to do that. But, going back to the drop shipping thing, if I can drop ship something to one of my customers from just one place, even if I have to pay a little bit more for some of the items than I would otherwise, the convenience involved is so much more important that it's definitely worth it.
Let's turn the subject to the consolidation of this year's show to the manufacturing supply group. Did you guys see any impact from that move?
I don't know that I did. I didn't really spend any time there, and I don't mean to slight it by any means, but it felt kind of like the same show I went to last year, plus or minus some exhibitors or some people that I saw last year, but that didn't really change the theme for me. But I go there very organized, knowing who I want to see and what I want to accomplish, so I might not have made time to go see that portion of the show. I appreciate that they're trying to add a new twist and new stuff to the show. I thought Eric's presentation and some of the other presentations were a good effort in that direction, but not particularly what you're asking about. No, it didn't really make a big difference to me.
Yeah, it didn't turn me on at all. But I can see how maybe those machinery manufacturing companies would at least be able to say, we're going to be at this show when they're talking to their potential customers. Here, you can come see our machine. What was kind of disappointing for me when I would walk down the aisles and make the turn around those guys and take a look. None of them, except for once, none of them had anything running, and I always like to see those machines running. It's kind of the only thing that would make me stop and look, because I'm not going to deal directly with them from a fastener distributor perspective. But like I said, I can see how them using the space might be beneficial to them. And it did seem like they always had somebody there talking to them.
I didn't work the booth as much as I had hoped. Brian was in the booth most of the time, and you can comment on this, Brian, but it seemed to me like there was a wider variation in the guys walking down the down the aisles. I mean, there were definitely some guys there who were there for the machinery.
They're possibly true, because I guess you can tell when they're trying to avoid eye contact. As opposed to just not having any idea, which is different, okay? But I wouldn't have seen that much. I didn't notice much difference. I just noticed, I could tell from the first moment it started, and I just noticed there were a lot of people, okay? I said, oh, wow, this is different.
I'll make another observation on the show, random comment. When you enter the show, there's a tendency to go to your left first. It seems like those aisles get very crowded very quickly. And I had a few people I absolutely wanted to contact and meet with in those first few aisles. And I went there first thing in the morning, and I couldn't get to either booth because they had a lot of traffic there. And I soon realized I started at the right-hand side, the upper numbers, and worked back. I'd probably see more people quicker who I wanted to see, and I'd eventually make it back to those people. Oddly enough, as I think about it, I also noticed I went by a lot of booths with Asian companies in those first few aisles. So it was just interesting. I don't know how you determine what's a good spot in that show. I'm sure the corners where you could take up two booths, or right in the front, it's got to be prime spots.
Yes, well, all of us have spent many, many hours trying to work out where is the perfect place. Certainly one of the places with a lot of traffic is the exits to the toilets, where we sort of were last year. Actually, it's not as silly as it sounds. It's actually quite a good traffic place.
Well, yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, you got to walk past Fastest Clearinghouse.
You see everyone in the show eventually.
Right.
Maybe you should hand out lots of bottles of water at your booth, too.
Or hand sanitizer.
Yeah, then there's a real problem, because, of course, they're trying to avoid looking at anything that remotely resembles a computer and having to try and work out where the toilets are at the same time, so they sort of wander off into nowhere.
Well, I think the question of where you wind up in the rows and where you place your booth, let's face it, a lot of the good ones are snapped up and they're taken year after year, but there's still a lot of good ones left. And I think the bottom line is going to be, how do you work your booth, and how do you prep? How many people do you call ahead of time and invite? And I'll just give you a specific example. We do a lot of calling ahead of time. We invite a lot of people to the FCH booth, and we did a really poor job of choosing this year. We were right in the middle of a row. We were next to a large pavilion that was a little bit obstructive of our view. And despite all that, we had excellent traffic on both days. I mean, all the way up until the second day around, 11:30 or so, when it really just kind of went dead. We had somebody at our booth just continuously. And normally, even though at the high point we had 5 people working with FCH, we were still losing people that were walking by that wanted to talk with us. So it really matters how hard are you working your booth. I think that's the most critical aspect.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's amazing. No matter where the placement is, if somebody's looking friendly but not obnoxiously sales-ish at you as you walk by, you're going to stop and talk to the person. But there's still some of the booths where you can tell if some guy got flown out from his company, doesn't really care what happens. Some of the places still have guys sitting in a chair looking down at the ground. There's no way you're going to approach that booth, even if you think they're going to hand you a $5 bill. I mean, it just looks like he doesn't want to talk to me, so I'm going to go on to the next one.
Yeah, that is true, actually. It's really is interesting to see the difference between people who are actually trying to engage others as they walk past, even if you can tell they're not that interested, and the people who just sit there playing with their phones or something like that as if it's just a big pain in the neck.
Hey, I didn't get my $2 bill this year.
No, I know. I was going to mention that. Actually, I think it was not last year, the year before, when it was, we were heading into the really tough times. Eric had a $1 note that he put out on the floor on a piece of fishing line.
Oh, God.
So he would attract people by pulling this thing across the aisle.
That's cruel.
Right.
I nearly busted my knees diving for that thing.
Right.
Well, it's cheap entertainment.
Yeah, I think last year Darling Bolt was giving out $2 notes, wasn't it?
Well, it was less all the years. That's what I was saying. I didn't get my $2 bill this year. Were they doing it?
I didn't see it.
I don't know. Usually they used to come by and give them to us.
Well, they were giving out...
I can't recall either.
Well, I know they were handing out much appreciated Darling Bolt bottles of water, and I got one of those.
Right.
That was a great idea for the people doing that. Eric, you talked about, despite some obstruction, you had a lot of activity, and I'll say one of my best meetings happened on Wednesday at 11 o'clock when a lot of people were trying to see if people were going to shut down early and get out of there. And I happened to walk by a booth that had a product that just was something that I'd been wanting to track down. I had a meeting with the guy that I think would be very, very good business. And I just kind of laughed thinking, show's almost over, and I just had one of my better meetings of the whole show. And time will tell whether it really is a good one. But I know a lot of people want to get on and get out of there. But if you, like you said from the beginning, it all depends how you work the show and how much effort you put into it. So it's a great venue for that. And even if the show's bigger one year, smaller one year, it's a great place to come and meet a lot of people and network and find stuff.
Absolutely. I think we'd all agree with that. The opportunity is there.
Exactly. It's just what you make of it. I mean, you can be over in the corner near that crazy guy doing the social media presentation, and you can still get some good traffic.
And only one guy walking past holding up a cross.
Right. Yeah. As long as the negative reaction reduces every year, then you're doing well, right?
Yeah, I know. That's how I think.
I forgot to mention that screw I mentioned earlier that I had been looking for. Guess where I found it? Fastener's Clearinghouse.
Hey, right on.
And at a good price, too. Somebody didn't realize what they had, or they could have doubled the price. I still would have paid it, but we won't tell them that. It's too late now. I got the screws already.
Does anyone listen to this show? I don't know. You might be safe, Andy.
Actually, the truth is, the reality is this. The number of people who came by and sort of made comments about the show was really amazing to me. I mean, I just sort of, the number of people, and I talked to, some guy who was the manager of one of our big companies, and I said, now, do you listen to the thing? He says, of course, and he dragged out his BlackBerry and tick, 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 there's the podcast right there. I thought, whoa.
Yeah, I tell you, that was really, really pretty gratifying. I got to say that. And to anybody who's out there listening who swung by the booth or stopped us in the aisles, really, thanks a lot. It really does make it very satisfying and very worthwhile. We're not getting much out of this, but that's something. but I'll tell you, one of the other really cool things was that we have confirmed audiences that are out there and growing in the UK and also in Taiwan. And so that was a little bit of extra validation that I was really not expecting. I knew it was happening, but really good to hear.
I was just going to say I was excited when the Fully Threaded Radio was coming up, and just because it would be neat for the industry, but it really has, and I'm not just saying this because you guys asked me to be on the show. Every time I listen to it, I get some really good information. There's some even controversial things come up once in a while. It's for our industry that's normally pretty, conservative, maybe even a little boring. It's really spiced things up a lot, I think.
And our magazines do a good job of reporting news and even some of the online sites they have, but there's no interactive conversation in those. You actually can get an answer and then follow up with a question that drives a point deeper or gets a better understanding of that. And I think when the magazines are great for reporting the news, and I subscribe to them, but what you're doing really brings out different information. And, even on my blog, I hope that over time there's more contribution from people that want to share some of that stuff.
Well, I think all of this stuff is rolling up together, and we're going to see it coalesce a lot more. Andy, your blog, screwcrew.com, is almost less of a blog and more of kind of like a chronicle of just fastener-related weirdness, and I really like it for that reason. I don't know if that's what you had intended, but I mean, I always glance out there and see what you're doing. I'm like, man, where does he come up with it? I hope you just never run out of material. That's all I got to say.
Well, the fastener industry, at least for us, it'll always be weird enough. And that wasn't necessarily where I intended to go, but it kind of matches my personality. So,
right. You find the craziest stuff. I enjoy that. And you actually write very well. I know you move towards the other stuff, but when you do write commentary, it's very good. I think don't be hesitant to include that because your observations are good too. So it's a good site. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Well, thank you. You know what's interesting? I wanted to write more on my own blog, but I've written more words as comments on your blog than I have at all on mine. It just seems more fun to be responding to the topics that you bring up. So I think I'll just keep doing that, stirring up the pot.
Okay.
Well, you're welcome anytime. That's all good.
Cool.
Well, again, all this stuff is coalescing, and I think everybody's going to be developing what they have out there serving the industry. That includes the shows. It was good to see a couple of new features this year at NIFS. Of course, next year we've got the change of venue, and it's moving up to sometime in October, right, guys?
Yeah, mid-October, I think.
So things are progressing. Things may move a little bit slower here in the fastener world, but that doesn't mean we're standing still, right?
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
An important part of the show, I've commented on my blog, and I don't know how you solve this, but there's so much ability to network outside of the show. After, at the end of the night, a lot of people will go to dinners and have meetings, but there's always people that seem to want to hang out someplace and just interact with people that they see, once or twice a year. And it'll be interesting when we move down the street to the new location if there will be a place that presents itself, where people will just gravitate at the end of the night if they want to have a beer and see some people from the industry without having a specific plan.
Okay.
The proverbial after the show plans.
Yes, those plans.
I smell a new blog post coming up.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, it was a pleasure seeing you out there in Vegas, and I know we'll see you again at the next show, wherever that might be. It's been a great conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great talking to you guys, and it's good seeing everybody at the show.
Yeah, likewise for me.
Very fun to see you guys at the show, and I'm glad to talk about it afterwards.
Stick around for more Fully Threaded.
FastenersClearinghouse.com. Search and source from over 500,000 line items, all just a mouse click away and available at no charge. When the need arises, you won't find a better place to locate hard-to-find fastener inventory. It's where you need to be.
This is Joe Truckee of Cal Fasteners, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for us.
This is Robert Wanzer, and Fasteners Clearinghouse works for American Imperial.
This is Andy Pels from ScrewCrew.com, and FCH works for the fastener industry.
Join the sourcing network now and show your inventory to a whole new market. Turn slow movers into cash. List up to 10,000 line items. Show them to distributors only or to the world. FastenersClearinghouse.com. It's where you need to be.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. men. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who've ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
This is Chris Sellery from Ford Fasteners, your source for 410 stainless steel screws. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, back with you.
Fully Threaded
Radio.
Finest internet radio money can buy.
Of course.
Yeah, I was talking about where you should have your booth and so forth on a trade show floor. Wouldn't it be funny if instead of using the normal grid pattern like everybody uses, they just laid the whole floor out like a maze?
Well, some might say that given 13 or 14 aisles or something, it just about is a maze.
No. I'm talking more like, you see these farmers around here in the Midwest around Halloween time, and they saw down their cornfields and make a big corn maze out of it. That'd be cool if they did that for a trade show one time, just for a change of pace.
Okay. Only if it improves the traffic past our booth, okay? Because we could always put our booth at the end of one of the paths, so you get stuck there.
Well, yeah, you're still stuck with the question of where in the maze do you get the most benefit. On the other hand, if you're in one of the dead ends, you could think of some creative ways of keeping people there. So, I don't know. I think there's some definite possibilities there we should explore. Maybe we'll have a talk with McGuire about that one of these days, huh?
Yeah.
And the conversation we had with Simmi earlier was just wonderful. The message that she wound up with at the end there was really uplifting, and that's real leadership for you right there.
Oh, yeah, right. And also her comments about just noticing women actually who had been at the Wi-Fi conference also addressing and talking to each other. It was really pretty cool.
Yep, that is what it's all about. And, I should have pointed out also that there was a very important woman at the show this year, and that was my mom.
Yes, that's right. In our booth and around taking photos, and it was very good.
That's right. We put her to work this year, and it was funny. We were actually walking through the casino at Mandalay Bay going back to the hotel, and NFDA President Jim Derry walks up to us and says, "Hey, guys, guess what, Eric? I just saw your mom. She took my picture."
That's right. It was cool.
So I don't know if she listens to Fully Threaded all the way through, but if you are listening, hi, Mom. It was great to have Mom out there, and my dad was out there, too. He's out there every year. Of course, he's kind of the chairman of the board, and he's the official sponsor of the Fasteners Clearinghouse annual banquet we have in Vegas, too. So thanks to them for coming out this year.
Yeah, it was good to see them both there.
And thanks to all of our guests today, Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International Magazine, Stelfast President Simmi Sakuja, and, of course, our blogger friends, Traveling Salesman and Andy Pels. Let us know how we're doing, folks. Email us anytime, and you can do so at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com. That's ftr@fullythreaded.com.
Or subscribe through iTunes on your iPhone, or you can add us as a podcast to your BlackBerry. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
That's right. We're out there, social media guys now, and we're developing those folks, so watch us and
watch them improve.
Improvement, yes.
Right.
A little bit of room for that out there, huh?
Yeah, I know. Right, that's true. Going back to Andy Pels' comments prior to the show about tattoos, and given the fact that someone actually stopped by our booth and said they'd been to the tattoo parlor, and the guy in the tattoo parlor was mystified maybe we could have a tattoo as one of these temporary tattoos as a giveaway next year, the next show.
That's right. Andy said he'd made one up and he didn't bring it, but I would have loved to have seen it. And that actually might be a interesting idea for a promotional giveaway item, wouldn't it?
I'd want to see one of these in real life first, though.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to think about that. There's all kinds of ideas you could use. You know, there was one gentleman at the show, I think a lot of us saw him, and he was walking around, he had one of these surgical masks on, and, like a few years ago when they had the big SARS scare and everybody had these surgical masks on, and probably he just had a cold and he didn't want to infect everyone, but I was thinking if we ever have one of these outbreaks, we could have promotional SARS masks. How about that?
Yeah, but there would be, unlike the person who had the mask on, I'm sure it was extremely well-intentioned. However, the reality is that if you went near a booth and one of the guys had a surgical mask on, you would never go close to it.
Well, it's true. Well, there's a lot of ideas. How about another one from recent news? What if we gave away these Vuvuzela horns like they had at the World Cup recently? Wouldn't that be funny? The whole place walking around with these giant horns. Can you see that?
I couldn't think of anything worse, actually, after listening to that bloody noise at the World Cup.
Imagine Susan Hurley walking around trying to get everyone to shut up. That'd run her ragged. It'd probably not be a good idea. I'm starting to get a vision here. We've got the whole show laid out like a big maze, right? Everybody's tattooed and wearing masks and then blowing vuvuzelas, and it's just mayhem. Everybody's selling a lot of fasteners, though. We haven't talked at all about the on-floor pub crawl in this case yet, Bri, either. And, this is just getting to be, I just can't believe what kind of a show this could turn out to be.
Well, no, it'd never work. We'd have Vicky Lester, Mike McNulty, and Andy Pels, and probably half the industry would be twittering the solution. Everyone would know exactly what it was in a heartbeat.
Yeah, probably true. But sometimes it seems like everything is getting so complicated, and all we ever really needed to learn, we learned from cartoons. Bugs and Tweety taught me a lot, I think.
Yeah, kind of like the YouTube cartoon from the top of the show about the quantitative easing.
Yeah, kind of like that. I guess the world makes a little bit more sense when you can laugh at it, right?
Yeah, I agree. And we better end it there because my phone is buzzing away and the pink monkey might just need something from our accountant.
All right, we'll end it with a laugh. Hey, folks, this is our last show before the holiday, and we'll wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
And that puts episode 15 in the books. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
I can't think of anything else to say at the moment, okay?